The grand banquet hall was alive with sparkling chandeliers, the soft clinking of glasses, and the polite murmur of high society guests. Yet, for Thomas Hawthorne, the world felt suddenly hostile, suffocating, and unbearably cruel. As he stepped forward to give the toast, his hands trembled just slightly, a fact that would be magnified 1,000 times over in the moments to come. His words, carefully rehearsed, stumbled out awkwardly, and immediately, the crowd began to laugh. Not kindly laughter, but cruel, cutting, mocking laughter. He froze as the whispers started, faint at first, then escalating, mocking him, questioning his intelligence, his worth, and his very presence. Every eye in that glittering hall seemed suddenly aligned against him, piercing him, tearing apart his dignity in front of the people he had considered peers, friends, even allies. The laughter was relentless, each chuckle and whisper like a needle, stabbing at his heart. A few guests pointed, sneered, and whispered cruel jokes that everyone seemed to hear but him. The shame felt like molten fire, burning deep in his chest. He wanted to vanish, to sink through the polished marble floor and escape the humiliation, but he couldn't. His throat tightened, a dry panic rising as the room seemed to spin around him. Thomas's mind raced, trying to find a way to salvage the moment, any way to reclaim even an ounce of dignity. But before he could speak again, a small, deliberate sound made him pause. A soft clearing of a throat, a slight movement, a presence that seemed impossibly small yet enormous at the same time. It was Emily, his 12-year-old daughter, stepping forward from the far side of the hall. Her eyes were fierce, shining with a determination that seemed almost impossible for someone so young. The laughter faltered as all eyes turned to her. There was a pause, a collective holding of breath, as if the room itself sensed that something monumental was about to happen. Emily's hand, small yet steady, reached for a folder she carried, a leather-bound, heavy folder that seemed oddly out of place in her delicate hands. Her gaze met her father's, and he could see both fear and absolute resolve in her eyes. She opened the folder, and the silence deepened, almost unbearably. The room waited, tense, as Emily lifted the first page, revealing documents, letters, and legal records. Her voice rang clear and unshakable, carrying across the hall. For years, you have mocked my father, laughed at him, humiliated him in front of everyone. You believed him weak, ordinary, insignificant. You thought he was a man without power, without secrets, without strength. But you were wrong. The whispers died instantly, replaced by stunned silence. Every guest leaned forward, some incredulous, some apprehensive, all suddenly caught in the gravity of her words. Emily continued, her voice unwavering. What you do not know is the truth about the Hawthorne family, about the legacy my father has carried quietly for decades. A trust, hidden, protected, untouchable, worth more than all of your combined fortunes, investments, and bragging rights. Her small hand shook slightly, not from fear but from the intensity of the moment, as she revealed more pages, filled with numbers, deeds, properties, and records that confirmed her words. Gasps rippled through the hall, faces blanching, eyes widening, jaws dropping. Those who had laughed moments before were now frozen, unable to speak, their mockery dissolved into pure shock. Thomas could hardly breathe. For years he had endured the whispers, the cruel jokes, the relentless mockery, but he had never imagined the revelation would be delivered in such a breathtaking, shocking manner. Pride, fear, humiliation, and all mixed in a dizzying storm inside him. He wanted to speak, to reclaim some dignity, but Emily's presence, her words, her calm authority left him rooted in place, watching as she took control of a situation that had threatened to destroy him. Every single one of you, Emily said, her voice rising, commanding attention, believed you understood him, believed you could judge him. You assumed my father's value was measured by appearances, by your shallow standards. But tonight, the truth cannot be ignored, denied, or hidden any longer. She paused, letting her words sink in. The Hawthorne Trust spans continents. It has properties, investments, charities, and treasures that none of you could have imagined. My father built this quietly, patiently, enduring every insult, every mockery, every whisper meant to break him. And now, you will see what patience, resilience, and real strength look like. The banquet hall was frozen. Some guests whispered nervously to each other, trying to rationalize what they were seeing, but the legal papers, the letters, and the facts Emily laid out were undeniable. Cameras were raised, phones discreetly clicked, and even the organizers of the event looked dumbfounded. This was no performance. This was real, and it was staggering. Thomas finally found his voice, deep and calm, carrying a weight no one had anticipated. For too long, I have been measured by your laughter, judged by your ignorance, and mocked for what you could not see. But tonight, my daughter has revealed the truth. I do not seek vengeance. I do not need your approval. But I hope you learn a lesson in humility, in understanding that value is measured by patience, endurance, and integrity, not by the fleeting judgments of those who see only what they wish to see. Emily closed the folder, holding it tightly to her chest. You laughed at my father, humiliated him in public, and assumed power over him with your ridicule. But the greatest power, the deepest strength, is not always visible. And tonight, you have learned at last, that no amount of mockery can diminish the truth. Silence hung over the hall like a thick, suffocating fog. Guests who had moments ago celebrated his humiliation now looked at him with awe, fear, and a profound respect. Some came forward, hesitant, awkward, yet unable to hide their astonishment. Cameras captured every moment, recording the transformation of a man once mocked into a figure of undeniable power, dignity, and resilience. Thomas looked at Emily, tears threatening to spill, and nodded. In that instant, he understood something he had always known but never felt so vividly. The bond they shared, the courage she had displayed, and the revelation she had delivered had changed everything. He had not just been vindicated. He had been elevated, transformed in the eyes of everyone present. And Emily, his daughter, had orchestrated it with a bravery and intelligence far beyond her years. The banquet hall, once filled with scorn, was now hushed in reverence. The chandeliers glimmered, casting light over the stunned faces, the whispered apologies, and the awestruck onlookers. Thomas had been humiliated, publicly, brutally, but through the courage of his daughter, the hidden truth of a lifetime had been revealed, turning shame into awe, ridicule into reverence, and leaving a mark that would be remembered by everyone present forever.